Now we're going to jump to quality. You can't process and purchase an APU without knowing the quality. And there are a ton more qualified people than myself to talk to you about quality assurance, traceability, and whatnot. But this is going to be a general concept, because sometimes when purchasing an APU, at least the ones that I've been involved on, quality was after the fact, and it really needs to be discussed prior. So what do you really need? Are there specific cycles remaining that you have allocated, that you need? You can't take anything less than that. Again, with that, supply and demand plays a role. As you can say, I need this cycles remaining, but the market only has X, so you might just be stuck. So you still have to be somewhat flexible within your operation. So cycles remaining, we just touched on that. Is how many cycles remaining do you need? Or do you have an allocated number? What's your minimum? And really be honest with yourself about your minimum. Because really, with that is cycles remaining. If you're looking for, let's say, 12,000 cycles remaining, but you want it at your budget to buy it is at 1,500 cycles remaining, it's not realistic. So really be realistic on what you're looking for. The logbook, your maintenance team and your engineering team, your quality assurance team would be the best ones to look at this, but really get detailed information about the logbook. And traceability. Do you need, as an operation, do you need back to birth? If you need back to birth, supply and demand comes back into play, and the aftermarket might not be able to deliver on that promise to you. Can you only take 120, 121, and 129? Can you not take foreign trace? Really know and give that information. Go back to the communication and the trust, is give that information to your trusted material partner, because if they have that information, then they can give you the right choices, or they can say and be honest with you and say, unfortunately, I don't think this is an option, but here are my 1, 2, 3 recommendations. With traceability is your airworthiness certs. You have FAA and EASA and all of these other ones, CAAC. What are your airworthiness certification requirements? Can you take FAA 8130s alone? Or do you need an FAA dual release or EASA? So really talk to your QA team and your maintenance teams on, realistically, what exactly do I need? And you probably have that information at your disposal right now. And then we go back to is you pay for what you get. Know your needs. If you have that APU that you just need it at 10,000 cycles remaining, but you're budgeting it at 1,000 cycles remaining, it's not realistic. You know what you pay for, and that is when you start having conversations with your finance team, because you've really planned ahead. You've had that conversation with your finance team, and now your budget is realistic. So you pay for what you get, always. I have a great example of this. We bought an APU, and it was about $100,000 below market. It was tested on the aircraft. It was boroscoped by an MRO, and essentially that's it. It was airworthy, but what happened is the quality was still bad, and the fuel nozzle was loose, and it caught fire. Huge mistake, incredibly costly, and it cost Skylink itself, because we made arrangements with our client, a lot of money. So for you is know what you get. If it's too good to be true, almost always it's too good to be true. Chasing. And that goes, and actually, let's take a step back. That goes back to, if you know that an average repair time for your APU is 30 days, and somebody is quoting you, we have to send it to the shop to get repaired, and it's about 5 days. Is that really realistic? So even when you think about, when you're focusing on prices, look at the lead time. Is that actually realistic? No, probably not. You probably need to factor in 30, 45 days. So if your APU is coming off in 14 days, there's nothing on the market, your vendor is quoting you 3 days, you might run into a problem. So really looking at that. The next is chasing. And this is the point where you've cut the order, you've negotiated the price, you've got the terms all lined up, and now you need to chase your order. And there's two really critical things when you're purchasing. You have the initial processing. Sourcing is important as well, but you have the processing, the negotiations, the terms, the agreement, and then the chasing. A lot of times is you'll purchase, but then forget to really chase, and then things are delayed. Or if you focus too much on chasing and purchasing gets neglected, well, then now you're not really focusing on driving down total material costs. So they both have to be weighed incredibly balanced. Is how do you chase your APU? Well, let me tell you. When in doubt, insure your asset. So first, when chasing is another great example is we sold two 747 engines, and in the freight forwarder, and this was handled by a client, the freight forwarder managed the pickup and everything. But as it left our facility, the freight forwarder forgot to tarp the engines, and it was sent via open truck to the airport. By the time it got to the client, the fan blades were damaged from debris. So when in doubt, insure your asset. And in this regard, thankfully, is they insured their asset and they got the repairs. That they were needed. So when in doubt, do some form of insurance for your asset. Now, if your supplier, your trusted material partner is right next door, probably not worth you insuring. But it is important to insure your large assets for obvious reasons. Choose a quality freight forwarder. I can't tell you how many times I've gotten emails and calls from freight forwarders that I thought they were from planet Mars. Really, I had no idea what they were talking about. They had no idea what they're talking about. Really choose a quality freight forwarder that you trust, or even your trusted material partner might have a freight forwarder or a freight service that they provide. If so, use that. Why? Because you don't have to deal with it. It just gets from point A to you in the time that is needed, that is budgeted. So if you can outsource the freight and not deal with it, it's probably it is a good use of your time if you need that additional support. But mainly is go back and build that communication and build that trust with a quality freight forwarder. That becomes really important, especially during the sourcing stage, because there's somebody that you're really going to have to rely on. And the last part of chasing is, and there's not a slide, is track its every movement. If your trusted material partner quoted you 14 days, don't wait till day 14 to follow up with them. Hopefully they've updated you on day 1, day 3, day 7, day 10. But if not, you need to take the initiative to follow up with them. So set a reminder for yourself. It can be in any technology, it can be in a notepad, but follow up with them. And then once it ships, track its every movement. So your freight forwarder should have a service where you're able to track its every destination. So if it goes to multiple destinations, you're able to track that. Why? Is because one, it's really for peace of mind. You want to know where your large asset is. You don't want it floating off in the abyss and you not know where it's at. And if you are relying on a trusted material partner to do that for you, they should update you of the status fairly often, if not every day. If it's a 14-day shipping cycle, maybe every other day, every 3 days. But if it's a 5-day transit time, you should be getting some form of an update every 1 to 2 days. And that's a pretty good benchmark for you. Don't set yourself up for an AOG situation. If you're doing all of this last minute, some of the biggest mistakes I've personally made and clients have personally made and team members have personally made is when you wait to the last minute to make decisions and to do certain things. Could you imagine if the maintenance team said, guys, we need this APU tomorrow? Well, you have to go through the sourcing, processing, and chasing steps all within a day. That becomes really complicated, and I can almost guarantee you're going to go home and look like this person and just hold your head because you're super stressed. Don't set yourself up for failure. Have conversations internally and externally and really set yourself up for success.